What does it take to name a brand for a market you've never stepped into? This is How the World Names, conversations with members of We Are Naming, the global network of experts shaping the future of international brand development. In this series, we explore what's wonderful and weird about the languages, cultures, and countries we represent. Hello, and welcome to How the World Names. I'm Caitlin Barrett. I am the U.S. partner of We Are Naming, and today I am joined by our partner in Italy, Angela Colucci. Angela, welcome.
Oh, welcome. Nice to see you, Caitlin.
It's so good to see you. And today we're going to talk about naming in Italy, which I think people all over are going to be very excited to hear about. And to get us started, let's talk a little bit about your naming background. Would you tell me a little bit about how you got started naming or what your naming practice is like today?
Okay. My path to naming hasn't been exactly linear. I studied the classic, so I always love literature, words in general. But when it came time to choose university career, I don't know why, but I decided to pursue architecture. Probably because after so much theory, studied at school, I was fascinated by the idea of creating and building, something concrete and visible. But during that journey, I discovered branding. And after graduating, I decided to enter in this fascinating field. I had the privilege to work at two global leading companies. And during my time at Interbrand, which was my longest experience, if I'm not wrong, over 15 years, I was able to explore all disciplines related to branding, from strategy to design, and of course, naming. Um, I had the opportunity to work with a wide range of clients, from major global company to iconic Italian brands like Lavazza, Fiat, or Trenitalia. And sincerely, I still remember my first naming project because it was for Bulgari Parfum, and it was a very magical experience. How can I say? It was, the environment, the people I met, the brand, of course, itself. Everything was magic, and a good first experience for sure. But returning to my story, I left Interbrand as a client director in 2018 because I wanted to build something of my own. I want to be independent. And finally, in 2020, I had the honor and the pleasure to join We Are Naming as the Italian partner. Here, I reconnected with old colleagues and meet new ones. And sincerely, I can say that it's a great experience from every point of view. And that's it. This is my story.
I love your story. So many of us have that same shared point of having worked at Interbrand. In the late 2000s, early 2010s, a lot of us overlapped. I think Interbrand has come up on a number of these calls as being part of our naming journey. And I think one of the pieces of working at Interbrand that I liked the most was like getting to talk to someone like you. And we had, our network all over the world, and we got to exchange tons of insight about what
Yeah.
names meant in our cultures. And I didn't realize at the time how unique that was and how special. And when I left Interbrand in 2016, I didn't have that anymore. And it was really sad. And getting connected with all of you again through We Are Naming has brought me so much happiness, and like I feel more connected to the whole world. I feel more connected to the naming practice. And it's so fun now to get to like share conversations like this with other people. These are usually our secret conversations.
No,
Um,
for sure. That was the same. I had the same experience of you, the same, identically.
Like when you leave, you're going, "Oh, okay, well, where's all my people? I need to ask
Yeah.
them questions every day." And one of the ways that we have been keeping each other, as well as our audience, connected to things going on around the world, has been this series of reports that we've been putting out over the course of this year called "What You Need to Know About Naming in." Insert country name here. And you put one together about naming in Italy, and we're going to talk about that today. And if folks want to read it, we will also include that in the show notes. So you can read it with your eyes. You can read along if you'd like. So let's talk about what you've got in here. One of the first things that you talk about in your report is the musicality of the Italian language. We know in our hearts, even if we don't think about it very much, that we simply like words that are in Italian. They sound good to us, at least to my, U.S. English ear. But I suspect, it's pretty true around the world. So would you talk about some of those qualities of Italian that make it such an appealing language to people, in all corners of the world?
Yeah. To me, sound and rhythm are super important because they affect how the name feel and, of course, how easily people can remember it. Italian, as you said, is naturally musical, so name just flow and feel nice, and people notice it. Like you said, a lot of time when I've been told that listening to Italian is fascinating as listening to music itself. When I am abroad, a lot of people say that. Um, to back to the history, of course, Italian has been also the language music for age. Composer like Monteverdi or Vivaldi used words like adagio, allegro, fortissimo to show the speed of feeling music. And this is a perfect example of how Italian add musicality quality to more or less everything. But sincerely, I try to understand why Italian is so musical, and there are a few things. For one, Italian has a lot of words that start and end with vowel, and vowels are always clear and consistent. Unlike in English or French, where some letters can sound differently
You like it?
depending on the
No,
words.
I
Yeah.
get that. That's nice of you to say that you like it. Yeah, that Italian consistency is so nice. As someone coming in and trying to learn another language, that ability to rely on, what the A, if you see letter A, you kind of know how you're going to pronounce it. That's such a nice quality.
Yes, you pronounce like you read every time, always. Uh, but there are other small details. For example, double consonant. Think to Dolce Gabbana. The double B give the name, a sort of rhythm that that stick in your mind and give you, the sense of something interesting. And last but not least, every syllable is pronounced. So it creates this, steady beat, like music, like, just like a music. Then, I really think this musicality helps when a name travels internationally, because when a name sound harmonious, it's easier to remember, and it carries a sort of positive feeling. And when it comes to Italian name, it also communicates that sense of beauty and style that we are lucky. A lot of people recognize when talk about Italy.
Yeah, that's come up in a lot of these different interviews. Is in German, if you've got a German name, when I talked to our partners in Germany, Sebastian and Solveig, they said, well, yeah, I mean, if it's German, people might assume it's precise and it's organized, but we don't have as much of that like luxury and fashion. And then Ignacy in Spain says, well, in Spain, we
Yeah.
can cross luxury and fashion, but some other things, might have to be conveyed through other means. And same, like Italian does carry so much, and we see that with brands born in the US wanting to convey some of that, and they want to steal some of your Italianness, and so Italian gets introduced into the conversation. I find it so fascinating, just what we have exported as culture and how language carries that so well. In your report, you take us through a really beautifully organized history of naming in Italy. So we start with kind of these legacy names, and we get through some of the more modern names today. I would love for you to walk us through those shifts, maybe starting with some of those legacy names. That craftsmanship of we're talking about names that like Ferrari and Gucci. Really start with like a personal name. So can you talk about that era of Italian naming?
Yeah, sure. To me, in some way, the story of naming in Italy that I wrote in the report is kind of like the story of Italy itself in some way, and I try to explain. Back in the late 19th century, most of brands were basically named after their founders. Think to Gucci, Ferrari, or Barilla. If you would like to talk about pasta, that because a family name wasn't just a name; it was a stamp of trust and quality. And in that period, Italy was still very connected to local trades and tradition. So having family name on your product really meant craftsmanship and reliability. Then, after the war, everything changed. Italy was buzzing with energy. There was this sense of, excitement and growth, and brand started to get more imaginative. Names become more evocative and completely different. Only an example. Take Vespa. Such a simple name, but immediately it makes you think of buzzing sound and also the sleek shape of the scooter. And of course, it convey also the freedom it represented, to go around everywhere easily. And it's a very good and clear example of that period. Moving forward, from the 1980s to 2000, Italy started to looking outward. The world was opening up. English became the language of business, of fashion, and suddenly brands were looking for something international. Maybe they are starting to search something cool. The names that came in my mind is Yux. This playful mix of letters to convey also technology but fashion at the same time, or changing market Fineco that blend finance and economy. In that period, Italian brands were trying to show that they could be cosmopolitan, but without losing their soul, in my opinion. And then from 2010 to today, everything got even more interesting. With social media, digital culture, the name in general is not just a label anymore, but it became a message, a story, sometimes something that need to provocate, if you want. And some brand in Italy start to play with this. I mentioned God Can Destroy Streetwear, just a little, rebellious and ironic, or Toilet Paper Shop, the magazine by Catalan and Ferrari, which
Love that name so much.
yeah,
So
they
good.
yeah, so good, so fresh, so nice, so ironic, and in fact, they want to surprise you with a sort of paradox, and it's very nice. But these styles can, be very interesting also in a completely different kind of sector, very more serious. I'm thinking to Pizza Out. This is a mix of pizza. This brand name is a mix of pizza and autismo, because I like their mission of the brand to include people with autism. And to me, it's a very good example. I love this brand. I admire them not only for naming, but also for, of course, their mission. And by the way, I can say that I love them also for their pizza because it's very, very good. I tested, and I can say that they know what they do. But come back, to naming. More or less, this is the evolution of the naming in Italy through, the period starting, from the initial century to today.
So let's talk about English because English is so interesting. From every country sort of has its starting point with using English a lot and global brand names as a way of saying we want to be for the world, or we want to create the impression that we are a global brand. And we've seen a fair amount of that, to the point where everyone complains the same as we do in the U.S. that it's very hard to find available, simple, real word names in English. And I'm just
Yeah.
kind of curious about the Italian perception of that. What do people feel about these English names? I've only been to Italy a few times, but I do see Italian people as being very proud of being Italian. What is that perception of English words and the cultures associated with them? And do you see a trend? Second part of the question: do you see a trend of moving back towards Italian names, like we're seeing in some other countries?
Um, in my with English, first of all, Italian brands, started to gain a sort of international passport. Think to names like Hughes that I mentioned before, or Diesel. This kind of name doesn't need translation. As you said, it works in Milan, in New York, in Tokyo, and everywhere. And that global reach is a huge advantage because open doors to new markets and audience. But at the same time, there is a risk to me of losing, the deep connection with Italian roots. To me, a brand that chooses a name that is too global can risk to be generic or easily confused with foreign competitor. The real challenge has always been, and still is, keeping that Italian heart while dressing it in a globally understandable package. It's a delicate balance. The name has to sound modern and international, but still carry the warmth, the creativity, the elegance that make Italian's brand unique. I thought to some example. To me, it's super clear if I told you about Superga, whose name is short, distinctive, clearly Italian, but at the same time, it's easy to remember and pronounce everywhere in the world. Or a completely different example is Luxottica. Again, easy to pronounce worldwide, but clearly, to me, it refers its Italian heritage. This brand show that it is possible. It's very difficult, for sure. But to me, the goal is to find, the perfect blend of local soul and international reach every time, if it is possible, of course.
And then if we take that lens and we put it to some of those even more modern names that you talked about, toilet paper shop,
Yeah.
um, with those types of names and some of our other conversations, people will point out that those names are more popular with a younger audience, maybe, and or maybe are even less understandable by an older audience. Can you talk about just kind of those more ironic, those bolder, more playful names, and their place in Italian culture right now?
Yeah. What I think is that, as you said before, today, in the age of social media, names really have to stand out. They need to be memorable and surprising. You mentioned God can destroy streetwear and toilet paper shop. And in my opinion, these names aren't just a name, they are sort of statements. Um, this kind of freedom with language really reflect our societies today, also in Italy. We want to take risk, we want to communicate in a different way, and sometimes loathe at yourself, be ironic. And in Italy, this movement show that Italy has learned to use words as form of creativity, and but not in a traditional way. That we are able to, have a great sense of self irony. But doesn't mean that we are throwing away our classical roots or our history. It just means we have learned to use them in a fresh and modern way. Um, but I think it's important to say that this playful style isn't for every brand. The golden rule to me is still the same. A name has to reflect the brand essence, its story, its story, and why it exists. I wouldn't ever imagine this kind of irreverent or provocative naming for a brand that has a long history or heritage to convey. I don't know. Think to Parmigiano Reggiano, for example, or go in the fashion sector, Ferragamo. This name has to be traditional, has to be classic, because they has to tell that story and communicate their elegance and authenticity. Humor or irony in this case just wouldn't work.
So when you sort of offer a little bit of a formula in your report about what makes a great Italian name. You say clear cultural identity, global accessibility, emotional impact, and a twist. So I think that twist is a little bit of what we might be talking about here. That there's certain guardrails perhaps that you need to think about how much you want to twist your brand. Can you talk a little bit more about what makes for a great twist in a name when it's appropriate to do so?
Yeah. When I talk about a twist, I mean, a little unexpected details that makes a name memorable and surprising. Sometimes it's a clever play on words, or a distinctive sound, or an unusual structure. Sometimes it's a cultural reference. It could be also unexpected association. For example, Vespa, that we mentioned before, Vespa for a scooter, or an iconic touch like a toilet paper that we mentioned also before, or even a narrative twist. I was thinking to Lujo. I don't know if you know, it is a very Italian brand, Lujo. And it comes from a personal story of love and passion, because Liu and Zhou are the nickname of the founder and his company of life. Or in another case, it's funny to say, it's can also be the perfect surname. Think to Ili. Isn't just a surname. It's short, it's harmonious, it's easy to remember. Is the perfect name, and as the twist that we are talking about. So really, the twist can make many forms. It can be sound, story, or others. What matters is that it transforms a name from something ordinary into something unforgettable. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to find always the twist, but when you do, it's magic, and it's change the face of the name, and start to be magic and start to work forever. That is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, the finding the twist is the whole game. That's
Yeah,
the whole naming process is really sometimes about finding that way to say the thing that you know is true, to say it in a way that's special. I love saying it, unforgettable. I think that's a great way to put it. But yeah, I think we spend all our whole naming careers looking for the right twist
yeah,
for each
yeah,
client
for
that
sure.
we work with. That's a great way to put it. So let's imagine that I am starting a brand. I'm a founder. I can't wait to, take my brand out into the world. And I've decided that Italy is going to be a really important market for me. What is something that I should absolutely understand about the Italian market before I start considering name candidates if I really want to be successful there?
Okay. When you want to name a product or a company for the Italian market, I have to remember that in Italy, name is not just about clarity, it's not just about the message, it's about how it feels. Because Italians are very sensitive to the sound of words. That said, I think I've changed it, because now brand like DAZN, H&M, or Huawei show that names can succeed in Italy, even if it's isn't smooth or easy to pronounce at first. But that there is a reason, because I can give three suggestions. First, the name must be adaptable because Italians will always find a way to pronounce almost anything. Dazon become Dazon. H&M can become H and M. But it's fine anyway. Probably Huawei as was so tricky. They did some communication campaign, but everything can be, pronounceable in Italy. Maybe not fully correctly, but we can pronounce anything. And sometimes we also, teach abroad how pronounce Italian naming. It comes in my mind, the Versace communication campaign. I don't know if you saw that. It's Versace, not Versace.
Oh,
Uh,
uh-oh. Uh-oh, I'm guilty.
it's nice. Um, the second point, the second suggestion is that the name has to fit the contest. Short, sharp names work very well for tech or sport, but in food, tourism, luxury, maybe some more elegance and beauty. It's better. And finally, the name has to feel authentic. Please don't try too hard to sound Italian. A fake
Mm,
Italian style name can feel forced and
yeah.
in if you some are lucky, comical. But I saw some very disaster things around, and it's better to sound genuinely foreign than artificial Italian. That's what I say, frankly speaking. In any case, these are rules that works in Italy, but in some case probably also abroad. Uh,
I
then
know, I think that last one is really important because I think a lot of us have a lot of false confidence around what Italian sounds like. I told you before we started recording how much here in the US we love Italian accents. We love them. We love Italian people, I think it's just a very beloved culture here. But that doesn't mean we have a true understanding of Italian language and Italian culture, and I think like anyone off the street would be like, "Yeah, I can make an Italian sounding name." And you might to other people in the US, but I think if you take that to America and Italy, exactly what you're saying would happen is you guys would go, "Hey, you're trying to sound Italian, and I know you're not. So just be yourself," which is such universal advice. It's what our parents said, be yourself. But I think that's especially true. And just keep yourself out of pretending to be something you're not in your name and in all other forms of your brand. That's excellent advice.
yeah, and
Um,
if I add something, remember always that Italians are everywhere.
Yes, yes, that's true too. If you're in, I won't say which state in the United States, but everyone's going to know which one I mean, where everyone's very obsessed with being Italian, even though it's been a long time since any of them came from Italy. Um, I think there's definitely a difference when people come from Italy and they see what like our U.S. Italian culture is. They can sense the difference.
Yeah,
So one final question before we play a little game,
yeah.
and I would love to know just kind of what you think is a great Italian name that captures some like cultural power of great naming, emotional power of great naming, or just your favorite Italian name.
Okay, I have two. Um, uh, we mentioned it before, but I really think that Vespa is a perfect example of Italian name. In just one word, it captures form, sound, and emotion. And to me, it's mega. It's magic because it's evocative, memorable, and all a lot of things inside in one very short names. But I have a second favorite name that unfortunately it doesn't exist yet. It's Airwan if you pronounce it in English, or Airone if you pronounce in Italian. The magic here is that in the same words, they were able to create an international and modern name, but at the same time, in Italian it evokes, the elegant bird, glitin airone, and again, in a short names, so different kind of reference, meaning, and all, very naturally. Both example to me are very impressive, and unfortunately I didn't create them, but I have a lot of work to do in front of in my career.
That second one, is it spelled Heron? How do you spell that second brand?
Airone.
Okay,
Airone. Air one.
Irone.
Air one
Air
or
One.
Airone.
Gotcha. Very cool. Okay, so to wrap things up, we're going to play a little game. I speak the fewest languages in our group. I have such a funny conversation with each of you before we get started, where you go, "Oh, I've got to speak English with you this whole time, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "You all speak so many languages, and you all speak such
Oh.
great English. I am the insecure one. I am horribly insecure in this group because you all are very multilingual, and it's very intimidating." So I've decided to just put myself on the spot in each of these and ask you to say something to me in your native language, and I'm going to guess what you mean. So, Angela, have you prepared a statement for me?
Yes, I have
Will,
it.
will you say it to me kind of slowly?
Diventare rosso come un peperone.
Okay. Say it one more time, but at least, unlike some of these other ones, I do know some of these words. All right, say it one more time.
Diventare rosso come un peperone.
All right, so I know some of these words. Come un peperone, I think, is eat a pepperoni. Say the first part. Let's say the whole thing again.
Diventare rosso come un peperone.
Diventare rosso. Okay, rosso is going to put us in the red, the pink world. Diventare, I don't know what that means, but I want to say it's something about like enjoyment. It's like tickling my brain. Like I know a word that's similar to that, but I cannot think of exactly what it is. All right, so something pink. This is making less sense as I piece it back together. Something pink, eat a pepperoni. Come, yeah, eat. Okay, so my guess is going to be, and it doesn't make sense now that I'm going to say it, but have a red time, eat a pepperoni. No. Enjoy, enjoy a red time, eat a pepperoni. Would you tell me what that actually means?
Okay. Allora, literally, it means to turn red like a bell pepper.
Oh,
Uh, like
oh,
come, but the meaning,
pepperoni, little
yes,
pepper.
little pepper. It's used when
Ah!
someone, blushes a lot, usually because, you are embarrassed. Then your face became red like a bell pepper.
Like a bell pepper. So I got only one word right, which was red. Hey,
Yeah.
it's better than I did with Judy in China. Thank you so much, Angela. This was so fun. It's so great to talk to you. I love your knowledge of Italian culture, language, naming. Always so fun to learn from you. So thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Bye bye.
Thank you, Caitlin. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening. How the World Names is produced by me, Caitlin Barrett. Music is by Alex Kulik. Subscribe to our newsletter at wearenaming.substack.com and submit a question for a future episode. If you'd like to partner with us on a global naming project, visit wearenaming.com to find out more.